Well, here we are again. I think this is the fifth or sixth of these little chats that we've had. Uh, Almost to the end of 2020. I don't think any of us would have ever imagined a time like this in our lives. I think we've all come through it with a new perspective on many things and perhaps had an opportunity to reflect on our own priorities in our lives and the value of relationships and other things that are meaningful to us. We would like to take the opportunity at Anthony's Antiques to thank you for helping us through this year. We've had broadened experiences, some that we would not have chosen, and others that have been surprises for us. One of the surprises is that as my son Micah was going through his usual exercise of looking for things that might be of interest to us at Anthony's, he found a painting in Europe, in Germany, done by an artist by the name of Rudolf Cronau. Cronau was kind of the Rick Steves of Europe in those days, but he came to the United States and did travel logs, if you will, and published them in the papers, assessed the situations that people were living in, and talked about them, about their culture and their environment. In 1882, he came to Salt Lake City, and it's difficult to separate us from where we are. I don't think we would want to be. But that allows us to understand a little bit about other people's perspectives when someone comes from Europe and then talks about us. He was a very well-educated man and a wonderful artist. You can see here on this painting that he did, it says Salt Lake City, 1882, right down here in the corner. You can see he's got this very green and lush foreground. He is showing the Salt Lake Temple under construction and with cranes on the top. He shows the tabernacle. He shows Amelia's Palace, Gardo House, Beehive House, and Lion House here, and other buildings. If we put this into with the Wasatch in somewhat of a romantic, if you will, perspective, you can see where he shows here the desolate area, and then all of a sudden the city springing up in the painting. If we put this into perspective, 1882 was 35 years after the pioneers came into the valley. To me, to be able to have something like this is a real historic document, because they came in. We have, over just a few blocks from us, we have a little monument to it with a tree, a trunk of a tree, in a little cupola, in the middle of an island in the street, that has the only tree that was in the Salt Lake Valley when the pioneers came in. So to see this huge transformation speaks of a disciplined and dedicated society to accomplish what they have done here in 35 years. You know, James Beard, of course, was very much of an economic historian, and I was raised under the James and Mary Beard perspective of history, and there's a certain truth to it, because you know, you think about these pioneers that came into this desolate valley, and 35 years later to have accomplished what is pictured here. You know, there wasn't really much in the way of specie or money in that environment. The railroad came in the 1860s, and there were wagon trains that came through, but this is a very mature society that is here. So Dickens wrote about the flower of society that was on the docks in Plymouth getting ready to depart for America, speaking of the Mormon converts who were leaving England. And when we think of the people who came across to this area, they were people who were mature in their own society. They were craftsmen. They were educated. Their women were educated. They were people who were literate. They were not the fringes of society being pushed out as the economy and as the nation grew. These people were people who left, just as the Israelites of old left Egypt. They were an organized people. They were a people who were taught in their culture. As a matter of fact, I'd like to just take a minute and read an excerpt that Cronau wrote. Just for a little side note, Cronau came and settled in Connecticut and brought his family here to the United States later. The Kennedy Galleries in New York had most of the body of his works. He was a friend of Sitting Bull's. He traveled the West. And in the Gilcrease Museum in Oklahoma, probably the most important, or one at least of the most important museums of Western art and history in the United States, they have his works. So to have a piece by him is significant. This is what he wrote, if you'll allow me to read this paragraph. These places hidden by the bright flowers of innumerable peach trees are the houses of the believers who, without urgent pomp, without overload, and wherever my gaze turns, friendly images greet the visitor. Everywhere, on the hikes through the city, nothing is more pleasantly noticeable than the constant cleanliness and attentiveness, peaceful calm and order, the evident well-being of all houses and meals. There really is a deseret, a swarm of bees, but without drones and without a military. Everyone works. Doing work is considered the highest duty and the highest pleasure. There are no idle people, and the poor there must not be, since the poor or unemployed are immediately provided by the church with what is necessary. The order is more surprising when one considers the different elements from which they come. It consists of the English, Irish, Scots, Americans, Canadians, Norwegians, Swedes, Danes, Germans, Swiss, French, Poles, Russians, Negroes, Hindus, Indians, and Chinese, and all colors, languages, customs, and traditions of the same people together here in a peaceful community of great strength and energy. Elements and contradictions of all nations and zones live here in practical fraternization and harmony. Well, perhaps somewhat idyllic, perhaps, as the painting suggests, an idyllic society. This man had critical thoughts about some of the ideas of the Latter-day Saints, but he saw the accomplishments that they had done, and to have this painting be part of our lives was really very interesting for us. I hope that as you go through the coming year that you will be able to contemplate the foundation of the society that you live in, the things that have been passed down to you from generations that allow you to stand on firm ground and to enjoy the civilization, the music, the roads, all of the things that are passed on to us, that we will be able to pass them on to future generations, and that we consider here at Anthony's our responsibility to remind ourselves of this each day, so that we can be at peace with the perspective of what history brings us and realize that there is hope. And we thank you all.